as well. Now, I would actually, if you don't mind, I'd like to take you right back to the beginning. I always like to know a little bit about who I'm speaking to, why and how they first got involved in martial arts as a whole. Because I know we all start out usually in something and then end up going on a journey and finding...
Right, always meanders around.
Absolutely. So I just wondered if you could tell us a little bit about how and when you first got started in martial arts.
Oh, I started martial arts. I always say I started formally when I was 9, because I think I was probably always that kid who was wrestling with somebody or doing something, you know. But when I was a young lad, 9 years old, I went to a local school, which would be what we would call an MMA school today. Okay. They mix karate and savate and judo and other martial arts together. We didn't do any forms. We just did try to do practical things. Yeah. And that's where I started. And I just kind of never stopped. You know, I just did one thing after the other, like many people in martial arts. And next thing you know, 50-some years have gone by. You know, I wrestled through high school and all those kind of things. But I think I was always kind of that kid who, if there were 2 sticks around, would have got another kid and said, come on, let's do some kind of fencing, so to speak, with our sticks. And then later on, when I really, in college, I started practicing Taijiquan, and I got further and further into that. It sort of came back, like the sword really interested me, and I was very fortunate that I had a teacher who still knew that. Unfortunately, but my teacher has passed on now, Wang Yin. But nobody else wanted to learn this kind of stuff, so it was just sort of languishing in a way. Sure. But I convinced him to teach me, and it's fortunately just the only guy in our lineage to get it.
Yeah. So you think that the love for sword play, swordsmanship, was there before? Or
yes, I think since I was a young tyke, yes.
Effectively channel it into
yes. Okay. It sort of came back, you know, like I wasn't really thinking about it, you know, like, oh, I got to get back to the sword, you know, what kind of sword will I do? It's just, I was practicing Taijiquan. And, you know, Taijiquan is really, I would say, degraded in a lot of ways. It's been, well, so many martial arts are watered down. As we were talking about earlier, I think people today aren't really martial artists, they're martial artsy. They like to wear the, you know, like the funky jacket and stuff. And we forget, like these were things that people used to really fight, to defend their lives. And in Taijiquan, what I realized, because I'd done martial arts for so many years, was, you know, you need to strengthen yourself. You just can't do forms, and push hands is good for some. You need to get some strengthening out of push hands. But what's the systematic way? And I started looking and realized, you know, Taijiquan, like all the martial arts, we just saw Shaolin guys doing stuff. It's a system. Yeah. And the weapons training is the strength training of the system. And so I started thinking about that, and once you start in, you realize, well, if you're learning sword, I should know how to use a sword. And then we just kind of went from there, you know.
Really interesting, yeah. I kept picking your brains. I was really interested in the way that the weapons have developed over the years in the different countries we were talking. Now, one thing that did come up in conversation, just changing things a little bit, was we were messaging back and forth a little bit before this, and you mentioned that you'd done 1 million miles.
Yes.
1 million miles, which
yes.
is, I worked out earlier, that is
more than
40 times around the planet.
Yes. I didn't do them all at once, though. Spread out over many years, yes.
That's just crazy.
It is crazy.
A considerable amount of travel.
Yes. I know more about Frankfurt Airport than anybody should know.
And that was for the most part through teaching. And
yes, it's all teaching. It's very, you know, and honestly, it's been very rewarding because I really love this art. And when you really love something and treasure it, what you want to do is share it with people. Absolutely. You don't want to keep it to yourself. You want to give it away. And so it's been rewarding. And I've gone, you know, Australia and Germany and France, and then a lot of time in Estonia and in Russia in the Soviet days. And you know, to find so many people are really interested in this. So, and it's lucky because it got down to, you know, unlike other sword arts that people are bringing back by reading old manuals, which is amazing. It's unbelievably difficult work to do, to read, you know, these very terse manuals in languages, maybe not your own native tongue. We didn't have to do that in Chinese sword work. But it got down to that one thing. If the internet hadn't come along, maybe I'd just be the strange guy in the park with a sword. But it grew, and then as people learned about it, and you know, it just sort of slowly snowballed, and it's great to see how it's come back.
Amazing. So tomorrow, I believe there's going to be a tournament.
Yes.
A chance for people.
Full contact.
Yeah, which is it's really interesting, the opportunity to see in action, so to speak.
Yes.
And how did that come about then? Is that something that's always been there, or was that something that you...
Well, historically speaking, of course, there were tournaments. Even at Huashan is a very well-known mountain in China, Taoist mountain. There's an enormous boulder there. I climbed up on it once. You actually need a little bit of a boost to get up on it. It's a really big boulder, and they had sword fighting tournaments there. Wow. So at this Taoist sacred mountain on top of this enormous boulder, which must have been very interesting because it's not flat. So I don't know how they did it. They had sword fighting tournaments there. So there always were fighting tournaments in the past, but nobody had done it for a long time, for decades and decades and decades. I think it probably died out before the Chinese Republic. We don't know for sure. They did bring it back a little bit in the Chinese Republic, but it didn't, Second World War came, so things really kind of died. But it's important to test yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to... It's, even when you're doing, full-on swordplay in your own school, that's still not the same as somebody you've never met before. You don't know, are they good, are they bad, do they have skill, do they not have skill? Fighting an unskilled person can be really difficult compared to the guy who's doing techniques properly. They surprise, oh my God, what's he doing? So we really needed to bring that back and get everybody, so people could test themselves. And that's why we have a system where we basically stole from fencing a pool system. Because we want to fly into Bristol, or we've had them in different places, and then you get one bout and you're out. We want to make it a great learning opportunity for people. So sometimes people will come and they lose every bout, and it could be close. And then they've gotten 8 or 9 bouts in with a lot of different people, and it builds the camaraderie. It's great. People really go after each other. These are solid wood swords. We have a minimum weight, of 700 grams, which is just below what the lightest sword probably would have been in the past. But for all day, it really gets heavy by the end of the day. These guys really go after each other. And, there's sometimes injuries. Fortunately, no bad injuries, but you get lots of bruises.
It's part and parcel.
It's part of it. You're being a martial artist, you get bruises. But to see afterwards, you see a guy get hit, and you're like, oh, that was a good one, and go give the other guy a shake his hand. Like, nobody is, they have a really great attitude. So, very rewarding.
Absolutely. Now, before we go any further, does anybody have any questions in the audience? If you do, we have a microphone set up at the front, which I can switch on.
Yeah.
If not, I'm going to ingratiate myself with a couple more questions.
Carry on.
Before I let you go. Without going down any further, okay. So I'm interested to know a little bit about the scoring system and how it works in this.
Yes.
Because again, I'm just geeking out a little bit here now. So
no, geek away.
I understand the premise that you mentioned about the way that it runs through the day, but we're talking different points, different positions.
Yes, we have different point system. And again, this was, we thought a lot about this, and there's never a perfect system. Different people put on other tournaments, may use different systems, other sword fighting tournaments, but we wanted to make it so that you'd have some time, because you can argue that a cut almost anywhere in your body might finish you. If you got a cut on the arm, your sword arm, you may not be able to fight anymore. But that makes the bout can be so quick then that how much do you get to learn from it? And we want to make this a really good learning experience for everybody. So that's why we have the pool system. You don't come in and lose one bout and you're out. So everybody will fight everybody in their pool. And then from that, we generate the direct eliminations. So once you direct eliminations, if you lose, you're out. But it's 1 point for the arm. It's 2 points for the hand. It's 3 points on the body, a light touch to the body or the leg.
Okay.
And so if somebody cuts, say, and it goes arm, leg, that could be 4 points or 5 points. Okay. And if it's a solid hit to the body or the head, that's like a knockout in boxing. Sure. Then you're done. The fastest bout we had was, I think, about 2.5 seconds, where one guy just ran forward. Sometimes somebody would be really tired and go, I just don't have it. I got one shot, and they'll just charge the other guy and get him, which normally doesn't happen in your schools because you're trying to develop good skills. It's another good way. The tournament is a good pressure test.
So is it almost like a point stop? Or?
Right. Okay. So if you can win by having the most points. Okay. So after 3 minutes in a pool bout, if you've got the most points, you win. Most bouts go 1 minute is the average. So you can have the most, or the first person to 10. So it could be 2 or 3 cuts. You can get 10. Right.
Wow.
Yeah. Three light touches to the body is already 9. right? If you touched me, like for a light touch, for example, if you're thrusting at me and I pull back, you hit me, but it wouldn't have penetrated very much, okay, you get 3 points. If you hit me and it's a solid hit, you win, right? And a hit to the head, generally you win, right? Unless it's extremely light. And then you can be forced out. If you're forced off the mat, you're out. So we've had people just lose track of where they are, run off the mat, and it's like, oh, that's a terrible way to lose, but you're out.
Ah, interesting. Interesting. Well, I'm coming back tomorrow, especially to watch this.
Right.
Interested to see what's involved.
And you'll see me running around a lot because as the referee, you got to make sure I don't get hit.
Of course, yeah. Yeah, that's one, definitely. You need to be close enough to see, but not
Yes.
close enough to on the receiving end.
Indeed.
Well, thank you for your time. I really do appreciate it.
I appreciate it. It's really great.